Hey, Faggy.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
Good.
hi.
We missed you in Shul today.
Oh, my sister's here for Shabbos.
Oh,
Very
nice.
Okay,
Nice.
good.
That was nice.
Yeah, she's doing work on her house or something, Ellie
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. So
There's always something to do.
always something to do, right? Never end.
Are you going to, you did already, you finished, you're done. You finished your bathroom.
That's it. No, I still have plenty to do.
There's always something. There's always a project.
Our houses are so old. Yeah,
They're almost 100 years old.
I know. Mine was built in 1927.
Wow, I remember when they built it.
By the way, did you watch that movie Passing on Netflix?
Passing?
You would like it, Harold. You would
What's it
really
about?
like it. It's like a European movie. It's in black and white.
Okay.
And it's about a woman who's black who passes as a white person.
Oh, passing. Oh, okay, I get it.
So
Okay.
she rekindles a friendship with an old childhood friend who's black, who lives and it's in like the 1920s during the Harlem Renaissance.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was
Never
a
heard of it.
beautiful
Go
movie.
check it out. I need to download some stuff. We're flying
Yeah, we're
next
going
week, so
to-
Yeah, we're also flying on Monday. When are you
we'll see you
flying?
in the air. We'll see you in the air.
When are you leaving?
Tuesday.
Hi,
I'm
Marvin.
leaving Monday
Till
Yeah.
when? Till when?
till Tuesday night.
Oh, okay. We're also
you
coming
go?
back Tuesday night, yeah.
Yeah,
We're
Yeah,
going to
we
be there the first 2 days of Hanukkah. Yeah,
exactly. And then the last days here with the kids here.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah, the
It's gonna be
same,
cold there. It's gonna be cold.
right.
Hi, Bernie.
Hi, Bernie.
Hi, Bernie.
I saw Bernie this morning. I was going to show. I see this guy, this athletic guy walking. He's walking in the middle of the street, but it wasn't Bernie, it was somebody else. Then I saw Bernie.
But Herschel was dressed uniquely. Don't worry. He was
Yeah.
to the tease.
Did you call me a eunuch?
Huh?
You called me a eunuch. You know what you said?
No, unique.
Oh, okay.
Ellie, that's Ellie who says it.
Herschel is
Oh,
Harold.
yeah. But I saw Reichman and show. He says you guys were, we walked for an hour and a half or something.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Listen, you got to keep pushing. That's it.
Yeah.
How was your trip to Israel?
We're leaving tomorrow.
Oh, you're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. For how long?
2 weeks.
Wonderful.
Do you need a ride to the airport? Because Mario could take you.
That's funny. Mark, you must have talked to Mark Mandelman because he starts making Kochen the level. He says, "Oh, I heard Michael Volk is taking Walt. Is he taking you?"
Oh,
and of course, it was totally fictitious.
Oh, okay.
So, how is Sydney doing?
He has trouble walking.
Really?
He has trouble walking. He has that neuropathy in the bottom of his feet.
Oh.
And, but Marcia says he's getting better. He just has to, I don't know how you get better. I guess you have to keep doing it.
Either that or he has to use a special device so he doesn't trip over his feet, like Svika had to wear.
Right. I think that's another issue.
Yeah.
No.
All
He
right.
wants to go to Israel so badly.
Are you going for Simcha?
We're going to, our grandson's in yeshiva there, so we're going.
There to
On
visit.
the occasion, we haven't been to Kever Avos in 2 years, so we're going to go.
Oh,
visit.
wow.
Yeah.
You have room in your suitcase? I have a small piano I need to ship.
Oh, Walter gave us an extra suitcase to bring too. So thank you. We have 4 big suitcases.
Uh-huh.
Bernie, Tammy, you're also going to Israel? You're going to
Yeah.
Israel
Please
When
God
you-
tomorrow.
tomorrow? Have a safe, wonderful trip. Wow.
Thank you. I guess Walter's still packing.
Good to talk, everybody. We stopped on Perak, we're in Shmuel Aleph, Perak Chav, Pasuk Chav Zayin. We're in the famous Haftorah of Machar Chodesh, where Yehonatan has been sent. David and Yehonatan have come up with a plan where Yehonatan is going to go to the meal, the Rosh Chodesh Su'uda, see what Shaul's reactions are when David does not come, to see whether or not is it for sure that Shaul wants to kill him or not. That was what they made out. And then eventually Yonasan is going to send a message to David as to what his next step should be. So Vayimi Mochras HaChodesh HaSheni, we'll see what, there's a machlokas rishonim how to interpret that. Vayipaked Makom David. Again, David's space, seat is empty. We went through last week that normally David would sit next to Shaul. Yonatan would not lie down because Haseba is a breach of Kibud Av. Therefore, normally it was David who was in that location, and now Avner was in that location. Of course, Shaul recognizes that David's not there. So Vayomer Shaul Yonatan b'no madua lo ba Veni Shai. You notice he calls him Veni Shai, not David. Gam Tmol, Gam Hayom, and Alochem. He was not here yesterday. He was not here today. So first of all, Rashi and the Radak explain that Mimochras HaChodesh HaSheni, which means it was the second day of Rosh Chodesh, the second day of the month. Not the Malbim says no, it was the Chodesh HaSheni and Yom Sheni Shel Rosh Chodesh. According to the Rashi and Radak, it's already a Yom Chol. It was only a 1 day Rosh Chodesh. Not a major the only question we have is in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when they would make the Kiddush HaChodesh based on witnesses that would come to see the moon. So normally months were either 29 or 30-day months. If the Eidim came on the 30th day saying they saw the new moon last night, then that was it. It was a 29-day month, and today was Rosh Chodesh, and tomorrow's not a Rosh Chodesh. If the Eidim didn't come at all on the 30th day, or they came on the 31st day, and therefore the 30th day is Rosh Chodesh, and now this is the first day of the new moon, what was the status of that 30th day, the day where the Eidim didn't come? Was it treated as Chol, or was it treated as Rosh Chodesh? Rashi and Radak hold they only kept 1 day Rosh Chodesh. And going backwards, the 30th day was a Yom Chol, and the new Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Chodesh. And then, of course, there's questions on Rashi and the way the Malbim Yurin based on this Gam Tmol Gam Hayom, because according to the way the Malbim learns, it's not yesterday; it's the previous month.
Yeah, we're right here.
And then this thing about Shaul calling him Beni Shai. Most learn that this is because, again, Shaul hates David, and he doesn't even want to call him by his name. Beni Shai is a sort of a derogatory to him. Yet we see Yonatan all the time, his friend is always mentioning the name David. So that's a sign of friendship. Now, Rav Schwab, I want to read what Rav Schwab says in Ma'ayan Beit HaShoeva, his sefer on Chumash, and he also has pieces on Navi. So in Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, we say, Mizbeach Hadash B'Tzion Tachin, that we should have a new Mizbeach. We're praying for the Mashiach. Hainu, says Rav Schwab, the Rosh Chodesh Uzman Mesugal L'Geula. He says every Rosh Chodesh is a special time where we should invoke a tefillah for Mashiach. Over Hayom. If we daven on a Rosh Chodesh and the day passes, V'adayin lo noshanu, Mashiach still hasn't come, Az mitoreret tmiyah, madua lo ba ben Yishai gan tmol gan hayom. So he reads this poetically. How come Ben Yishai? Because when we daven Mimkomcha, we say Ben Yishai as a reference that we're praying for Mashiach to come. And Rav Schwab sees this language in that evocative form. Madua lo ba Ben Yishai gam tmol gam hayom. How come Mashiach hasn't come yet? Umazev al mazach rav pamotav. Where is his footsteps? V'lazeh korima haftorah shekasuv bo vayipaked makom David. We just read the pasuk that the place of David has been taken. L'ramez shenifkad etzleinu makom melech hamashiach. That there is a place for melech hamashiach. We're waiting for him. There's an open seat. Umevaeret lanu apasuk shahasiba lezeh hayta. And why is our place for the Mashiach still empty? Shesinat chinam manat David milavol sudat rosh chodesh shel Shaul. This is sinat chinam. Why does Shaul hate David? For no reason. It's pure baseless hatred. And that's why David didn't come to the Suda of Shaul. Kach, so in our time, Meukav Mashiach ben David milavo mekomo al yedei chet shel sinas chinam. We know the Gemara tells us that Bayis Rishon was destroyed for the 3 cardinal sins: avodah zarah, shvichus damim, and gilui arayos, murder, immorality, and idolatry. But Bayis Sheni was destroyed for sinas chinam, for baseless hatred. We know the factionalism that existed in the time of Bayis Sheni, the Essenes versus the Tzdukim versus the Prushim, the civil war between Aristobulus and Hyrcanus, the 2 Hashmonite kings. It was sinas chinam that led to the eventual downfall. We know the Bir Yonim burnt all the stores. The siege of Titus around Yerushalayim could have lasted 20, 30 years. They had so much food. But the Bir Yonim, because they were zealots, they wanted to do battle, they burnt all the food because they wanted to force the hand of those that wanted just to negotiate with the Romans. So it was all baseless hatred that led to the fall of Yerushalayim, the base of Mikdash, and why Chazal still say we still languish in the goats. Okay, so that's a nice view. Every Rosh Chodesh, we should think about Rav Schwab's comment here, that it's a Zman Geula. When we say Mizbeach Hadash B'Tzion Tachin, we should always think of the Mashiach. And when we read this Parshas of Machar Chodesh, we should have this in mind, that even for our day. Pasuk, one more thing. Chazal say that the Psikta Rapti say that this Ben Ishai term, who was the one who used this? It's Ela Doeg v'Achitofel, Doeg Adomi, and Achitofel the Yoetz. And we're going to learn a lot about Doeg Adomi, hopefully tonight, if not tonight, next week. And David HaMelech in Tehillim, Perek Daled says, Bnei Ish admak vodi l'klima ta'avun reik. And David was always insulted by Doeg and Achitofel, who called him Ben Ishai. And the Medrash says, Amatatem mizalzelim b'kvodi, ve'einatem korimoti b'shmi. You don't call me by my name. Elatem omrim madua lo ba Ben Ishai. V'chen ktiv ra'iti et Ben Ishai. Doeg and Achitofel, many times when they refer to David, they call him Ben Ishai. And I'm going to read from the Gemara in Tainis Gimel Amud Aleph. We just had this in the Daf Yomi. And those who learned the Daf Yomi a few days ago will remember this. Zimnin de Korele Yoshua ben Beseira, the Zimnin de Korele ben Beseira. One of the Tanoim was called Yoshua ben Beseira, and another time he's called ben Beseira. And the Gemara explains how come sometimes he's called with his first name and sometimes he's not called with his first name. Before he had smicha, he was called Ben Beseira. Once he had smicha, he's called by his first name. Before he had smicha, he was called by the name of his father. When he was called by his full independent name, it was after he had smicha. This was already a time after David had killed Goliath. They were already praising David that, Shaul kills his thousands and David is tens thousands. To Doeg and Achitofel, David was still unimportant. His independent name. This was very embarrassing to David. It also explains, says the Musar Nevi'im, why it says in Moed Cotton, Yud Ches Amid Beis. V'chol yom vayom, bat kol yotzeit v'omeret, bat ploni leploni. We know that 40 days before conception of a child, there's already a heavenly voice that goes out that says, bat ploni, the daughter of such and such, is designated for ploni. V'lechura, loshen eina meduyak. The hailu loimer leben ploni. If you're talking about bas ploni, it should also say bas ploni leben ploni, the daughter of this person to the son of this person. Achadavar hu the isha ru'uya lihinose liish, af she'ein lo shem atzmi'i, v'hi nikret al shem aviyah. A woman is ready to get married even when she's not completely independent, and therefore she's called by the name of her father. Aval ish, mi she'ein lo shem atzmei, ein royally solo isha. A man's not ready to get married unless he's sort of established himself on 2 feet. Sherei onru besota memdalet, in sota memdalet amud aleph, it says, Tzarich adam livnos lo bayit, v'lita kerem, v'achar kach lisa isha. A person has to have a house and a vineyard, meaning he has to have a parnasa. He has to be able to support himself and his wife before he gets married. Umisha asa kain harikvar yesh lo shem atzmi. Lefichach shaper daiku va'amri bas ploni leploni. That's why when we say bas ploni leploni, it's got to be that way. It's got to be a ploni already. It's got to be a name. It's not just that he's the son of somebody. He's got to be an independent person already in order to be able to take on a wife. So I think that's a nice shot from this concept of Ben Yishai.
Is it possible that they refer to him as Ben Yishai, sort of as a pejorative that, to remind everybody of his lineage and the friction over whether or not he was kosher or not?
It could be. Remember, we'll see. Because Doeg is the one who claimed that since he came from a Moavite, he did not paskin like the ones that said you can marry a Moavite. So that's a nice shot. The Rishonim don't say that, but that could be part of this process. Mm-hmm. We can see that the focus is on, they were just trying to be mavaza him. They were trying to embarrass him by if you don't have your first name, you're nobody, basically. Yeah. So they were treating him poorly. Pasuk Chavches. Vayan Yonatan et Shaul. Nishal David me'ima diad Beit Lachem. So Yonatan says that David is not a morid b'malchus. He has not left without reshus. He asked if he could go to Beit Lachem because he's having a family event. Pasuk Chavtes. Vayomer shalcheni na. He had told me, ki zevach mishpacha lanu ba'ir. We have a family feast. V'hu tziva li achi. So did my older brother command me. And if it finds favor in your eyes, I'm going to go to see my brothers. And that's why he hasn't come to Shaul's table. And of course, you have to have kavod for your older brother. That's why he mentioned his brother. And the younger brother has a chiyuv to listen to his older brother.
Is this considered mored b'malchus?
No, Yonatan is trying to point out to show that he's not a mored b'malchus, that he had asked permission to go because he's following the orders of his brother, and he's going to his family. And Yonatan and also Eliav and the other brothers of David were loyal to Shaul. If you remember, when David shows up to the Battle of Goliath, his brothers are all there. So they're in Shaul's army. And Yonatan thinks that by mentioning the brothers, this will be very acceptable to Shaul as to why David is not there.
Ernie, we see a parallel here from David wanting to show respect for his older brother, like Kibud Aveim, the older sibling, similar to what we had in today's parsha with Yaakov going referring to Esau as Adoni repeatedly, that maybe he was trying to beseech his empathy from Esav by showing him his respect for an older brother. He
Right.
did that repeatedly.
Right, same thing. The Chassam Sofer has a very interesting comment here that this angered Shaul even more because it was already known ki malchut Yisrael hi ki areach yikon olam, that the malchus is compared to the moon. That's malchus based David, where we say in Kiddush Levana, David Melech Yisrael chai v'kayam. And that's dafka why the Melech would make a special yontif on Rosh Chodesh. It was like a king's holiday. And that's why the king would invite his avodim and his officers on Chodesh. And now that Shaul hears that David is also called back to his family to have a feast on Rosh Chodesh, not only did David not come to his mishteh, which is to be Mekayim Shaul's malchus, he's making his own zevach mishpacha, saying, oh, this is my malucha, and it's a very big merit. So some Sofer has a very, very sharp point here that this may have angered Shaul even more. Pasuk Lamed, Vaycharav Shaul b'Yonatan. So Shaul gets angry at Yonatan. Vayomer lo benna avat hamardut. You are the son of a rebellious woman. Halo yadati. I know. Ki vocherata leven Yishai. You prefer David. Levoshtecha ulevoshes ervasimecha, to even your own family, and but uses the pejorative regarding his mother. And Rashi here brings look in Rashi under Hamardus. If you remember, after the war against Shevet Binyamin, there's like 600 Binyamin left, and they have to get married. So they went to Shiloh, and if you remember, the girls would go out and dance, and they chose husbands there. Shaul was shy. He didn't want to grab. So the mother of Yonatan was very forward, and she ran after Shaul and grabbed him. And therefore, he calls her here, this mardut, this someone who's rebellious. And you inherited this rebellion, this azus panim, a little bit chutzpahdik, a little bit forward. This is one of the pshatim, is why he used this language to his son Yonatan. The Abarbanel learns when he says the he's going to say, listen, if David HaMelech succeeds me as the king, what are they going to say about you? They're going to say, you're not my son, and that she committed adultery. So if this is going to hurt you as terms of why you haven't inherited me and why it's going to David, you're not thinking this out, says Shaul to Yonasan. The Ramban explains in Parshas Vayechi, she'im lo chata Shaul, that in fact if Shaul had not sinned, Haya Lazaro Malchus B'Yisrael Olam, Shaul would have had a share in the Malchus of the Klal Yisrael in some form forever. Dichsiv, when Shaul was first appointed by Shmuel, Ki ata hechin Hashem es mamlachtecha el Yisrael olam. Originally, when he was anointed by Shmuel, he used language to imply that he was going to be king forever. Lo al kulam, says the Ramban, not necessarily on all of Klal Yisrael. Ulai hayam olech al shiftei imo, for example, al Binyamin ve'Ephraim u'Mnashe. Maybe he would have been king over the tribes of Rachel, right? Binyamin, Ephraim, u'Mnashe. Because we see in other Haftorah, ki Yehuda ve'Ephraim kishnei amamim nechshavim b'Yisrael. In some ways, Yehuda and Ephraim, the Bas Leah and the Bas Rachel are considered two different nations, says the Rambam. Oh, Haya Melech Tachad Yad Melech Yehuda. He would be like a governor under Melech David. Ulefi ze yesh lomar dekein amar shol Yonatan dekol malchut shelcha haya roi liot al shiftei imecha. That's the reference to the Boshtecha Imecha, because you would have had a share in the Malchus because of your connection through your mother, Rachel, al Binyamin v'Yosef. And this also, you've relinquished and given over to David. That's Boshas Limecha. That's embarrassing to your great-grandmother, Rachel. Now, Yonatan has really gone, well, let's learn another pasuk before we're going to see the next pasuk. Shaul's actually going to throw a spear at him to try to strike him. So the Gemara in Erchin Tet Zayin learns a major piece of halacha from this vignette. Ad hechan tochacha. There is a mitzvah of hocheach tochiach asamisecha. If you see your friend doing something wrong, we're talking about in halacha, in Yiddishkeit, you're supposed to be mochiach him. You're supposed to correct him. Now, how far do you need to go to be mochiach? How much abuse should you be willing to take to be mochiach your friend? That's the question asked in Erchin Tet Zayin Amud Beis. Ad hechan tochacha. Rav Amar ad haka. You should be willing to rebuke your friend even to the point where he strikes you. Shmuel Amar ad klala. No, you don't have to go that far to be struck. You have to go far. He'll curse you, but not so far to be mochiach him that he's going to strike you. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ad nezifa. Nezifa means he's going to turn away from you. He's not going to be makalal you, but he's going to be upset with you. And in fact, Kitanoi, there's machloikas Tanoi. Rabbi Eliezer Omer ad haka, Rabbi Yeshua Omer ad klala, Ben Azai Omer ad nezifa. Amr Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Ushloshtan mikra echadarshu. All three of these Tanoim learned from this pasuk. Vayicharav Shaul b'Yonatan, Vayomer lo ben Navat Amardut. He cursed him. And then in the next pasuk we're going to learn Uksiv, Vayatel Shaul et hachanit alav lahakoto. Shaul threw a spear at him to strike him. So the Manda Amar Adhaka Rav, who learned that you're supposed to be mochiach somebody until you're willing to be struck, he learns it d'chsiv lahakoso, because Shaul tried to strike him. Ulamanda Amar Ad Klala d'chsiv levoshtecha levoshes servasi mecha, he cursed him. Ulamanda Amar Ad Nezifa d'chsiv vaycharav Shaul. Shaul just got angry with him. Freit the Gemara Ulamanda Amar Nezifa haksiv hakol klala. Now the one who says you're supposed to do it just so that he gets angry with you, well, the pasuk clearly says Hakah and Klola. Says the Gemara, Shiny Hasam. There by Yonasan it was different. The Agav Chavivusa Yisera, the Havi Beli Yonasan B'David, because of this special extra friendship that Yonasan had to David, Mosar Nafshe Tfei, he was willing to go further. He was willing to go further, but La Halacha, in terms of what we're supposed to do, we don't have to go so far. Anyways, that's a very nice. There's a lot to say on that, but I think we see how the how Chazal would look at even just a narrative. Here it seems to be a story, but an important halacha is derived from here. Pasuk Lamed Aleph. Ki chol hayamim, and this is Shaul continuing his tirade in speaking to Yonasan, ki kol hayamim asher ben Yishai chal adama, as long as David HaMelech is going to be alive, lo tikona ta'u malchutecha, you're never going to have a kingship. Ve'ata shlach v'kacho tali ki ven mavetu. So here it is. Shaul says very clearly to Yonatan, I declare him he's a morid b'malchus and he's deserving of death. So this is the, Yonasan has been revealed, the true das of Shaul. This was not Ruach Ra anymore. He's now convinced that David wants to kill him and take his malchus away from him. And he expresses that to his son Yonasan. And he's telling him, by saying ki ben mavasu, he's mamish amorid b'malchus, the fact that he ran away and he didn't come to the Sudas Rosh Chodesh, and I want to kill him because of that. Pasuk Lamed Beis. Vayan Yonatan et Shaul avi vayomer elav lama yumat me'asa. Yonatan continues. What did he do? Yonatan is not shrinking away from confronting his father. He's still in this mode of being mochiach. He thinks he's being mochiach his father regarding this. You're talking, says Yonatan, about the future. Tzadadah Sofri, maybe that he might be a sakana to the malchus, but right now he hasn't done anything to demand that he be killed midin. So Lamed Gimel, Vayatel Shaul tachanita lav lahakoto. Shaul throws a spear at him. Vayidai Yonatan ki chalayi miyim aviv lamit et David. This is the convincing act to Yonatan that Shaul, his father, wants to kill David. The Abarbanel says in Mamish he wanted to kill him, but all the other Meforshim learn, like we learned from the Gemara, that he just meant to strike him. So Pasuk Lamed Dal, Vayakam Yonatan mima shulchan b'chari av. Yonatan is angry and leaves the table. V'lo achal b'yom hachodesh hasheni lechem ki netzav el David ki chlimo aviv. He's sad for David because Shaul has embarrassed him. Lamed Hey Vayi Baboker Vaytzei Yonatan Asadel Moed David V'nar Katon Imo. So in the morning, Yonatan, this is the third day from after the, remember, David and Yonatan planned 3 days. And he goes in the morning to the field where he created a date. Now, why do I say the word Moed means date? Because the word Moed always refers to a specific time. Like when we say Moadei Hashem. Those are special times where Bnei Yisrael would gather at the Beit HaMikdash, bring korbanos. Basically, they'd have a date with Hashem. Other places, the word Moed refers to a specific place, like Oel Moed, which is also a place that Klal Yisrael comes together with the Shekhinah. So that's why here as well, the Radak is connecting it to a time. Yom HaShlishi, because they had prepared that the David would hide for 3 days. And Lemoed David means he wants to fulfill this 3-day thing. But the Metzudas David focuses on the place, El HaMokom, the place that they had set up where David HaMelech was going to hide. So when he gets to the field, according to the prearranged plan that David and Yonatan had done, Vayomer L'Na'aro roots mitzanat achitzim, go find the arrows, asher anochi moreh, I will show you where it is, anar ratz, v'hu yarach etzi laviro. The servant ran, and Yonatan fires the arrows. Again, we ask, why was this whole thing with the arrows? So we mentioned that the Malbim says that this is a reference to Lashon Hara, because we talked about the 3 people that are involved in Lashon Hara, the speaker, and the listener, and the one who overhears. So the 3 arrows, and all of this is because of Lashon Hara that is being told about David HaMelech. Lamed Zayin. So the Nar reaches the place where the arrow apparently had landed. No, the arrow is further. If you remember, the signal that they made up is if he would call out to the Nar that the arrow is from you towards him, it's closer to me, that's a signal that David could come to him, that it was safe. But if he said the arrow is farther, that's a signal that no, it's dangerous and David should run away. Lamed Ches. Vayikra Yonatan achrei anar meheira chusha al tamod. Go quickly. Vaylakate nar Yonatan et achitzim vayvol Adonav. He comes back to Yonatan. Ve'anar lo yada me'uma. The nar doesn't know anything about the secret code between David and Yonatan. Ach Yonatan v'David yadu et hadavar. Vayitein Yonatan et kelav el anar sherlo vayomer lo lech havei la'ir. He gives him his other clothing and his other things that he's got with him to take back to the city. Mem Aleph. Hanar ba. So the nar leaves. The David kameitz la Negev. David gets up from where he was hiding. Vayipola pavartza. Vayishtachu shalosh pamim. He bows to Yonatan because he is thanking. It's hodah. It's thanking for the what Yonatan did for him to find out what's going on, that it's in danger, and now he's being told to run away. So he's being moded to David on his help. The Emek Dover, the Netziv, says that Hishtachava always refers to Tefillah. And David HaMelech is davening now. He knows he's on his way for a long derech, and he's davening for that he should be matzliach on his derech. Vayishku ishet re'ehu. And they kiss each other. Vayivku ishet re'ehu ad Davidic deal. Until David cries even louder. Vayomer Yonatan David leich l'shalom. Yonatan says to David, go in peace. Asher nishbanu shneinu anachnu b'shem Hashem le'mor. That we took an oath. Hashem yiyeh beinu veinecha. Hashem should be between us. Uvein zari, uvein zaracha ad olam. And this bond between us should remain forever. There should be no bittul. There should be no pirud, no matter what happens. And we know that happens. We know that does exist. We're going to start Perek Chaf Aleph. Any comments as we move on from this Maisa? It's a very emotional, very moving Perek.
Yes.
Perek Chaf Aleph.
Is this the last time they see each other?
Well, let's see.
Okay.
Let's hold on to that thought. Now, as they say in Hollywood or in the theater, the plot thickens. And the drama really begins. Vayakam vayelech v'Yonatan b'ha'ir. David HaMelech now has to run away. And David is going to go to the city of Nov, Ir HaKohanim. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, Kuf Gimel, Om Rav Yochanan Mishum Rav Yosef ben Kisma, Gedoyle Legima, Shehirchika Shtei Mishpachos MiYisrael. Making sure that someone has food is very important because of the lack of provisioning. This led to two families being separated in Klal Yisrael. We'll see. Shenemar, al dvar shelo kidmu etchem balechem uvamayim. So we know Ammon and Moab, when Klal Yisrael were traveling in the desert, and they tried to pass through their lands to go into Eretz Canaan. So they didn't give them food and drink. And because of that, now remember, who was Ammon and Moab? They were descendants from Lot. Who saved Lot? Avram Avinu. So there should have been a Hakaras HaTov from the people of Ammon and Moab to Klal Yisrael. So the fact that they didn't show even that basic midah of Hakaras HaTov, lo yavo Amoni uMoavi bikal Hashem. So the lack of providing food and drink led these families, we can't marry them anymore. Then says the Gemara, Am Rav Rav, Ilmola Hilver Yonatan David Shtei Kikrot Lechem. David HaMelech was out in the field for 3 days starving. And Yehonatan didn't even bring him any kind of food. And if he had brought him food, Lo Neheraga Nov Ir HaKohanim. We're going to see what happens now. David HaMelech is going to run away to Nov Ir HaKohanim. There's going to be a whole story. They protect him. Eventually, Shaul finds out about it. He comes and he destroys Nov Ir Kohanim. He would not have had to have borrowed the bread from the Kohanim in the city of Nov, and which led to V'lo haya doeg malshin aleihem. Doeg Adomi is the one who's going to say the Lashon Hara to Shaul. V'lo nitra doeg Adomi. Eventually, we're going to learn in Perek Chelek Sanhedrin, Perek Yud Aleph, that there are 4 people that ein lahem chelek me'olam haba. One of them is Doeg Adomi, for telling the Lashon Hara that the Kohanim had given bread to David HaMelech, who told that to Shaul, which led to Shaul wiping out Novi Kohanim. For a simple, Yonatan didn't provide bread for David HaMelech when he was out in the field.
There's also, I think it's following that like a comparison to, what's his name, to Moshe's father-in-law. Why am I blocking out Yisro? That when Moshe saved the daughters at the well, they came to their father to tell them that this man saved them. And right away, Yisro told them to go back and to bring Moshe, and he fed him. And so that was like sort of a comparison. Rabbi Kesselman discussed that on one of his shiurim about David HaMelech, that sometimes you do something small, but the repercussions of not doing something small can lead to very large repercussions.
Exactly what has been brought up by this Gemara. Something, and think about it. The Gemara seems to hold something against Yonatan, meaning it's on the. We have to understand. Kadosh Baruch Hu treats his tzaddikim kechuta saira. That means a tzaddik, what appears to us might be something completely normal, but on a level of a tzaddik, the lack of something is seen as a problem. So Kadosh Baruch Hu medagdikim tzaddikim kechuta saira v'chein matzinu be'egla rufa the omra zakenim yadeinu lo shafchu et adam hazeh. What happens in the Egla Rufa story? Egla Rufa are 2 towns next to each other, and a dead body is found near one of them. You measure, and wherever the closest city that the dead body is found, so that tzaddikim, the chachamim of that town, have to come down to a river and they decapitate the egel. There's a whole procedure there. Why? Because we know the person who was killed, he didn't have lavoya. Nobody went out and walked with him. When he must have been sent out of the city at night. Nobody accompanied him. So automatically the chachamim are judged. What they didn't do anything? No. So we see that when you're on a certain level, you have to go beyond what we think is normal activity. You got to really be careful. Are you supposed to give food to this person? Are you supposed to accompany this person? Like Ellen said, very little things make the whole world of difference. And it happened here as well. Pasuk Beis. Vayavod David noveh. So noveh means to know. Remember, let's remind ourselves that when Klal Yisrael comes into Eretz Canaan, the Mishkan and the Aron, they're together, are in Gilgal. This was that camp that Bnei Yisrael fought out of for the first 14 years. 7 years they fought, and then 7 years they divided up Eretz Canaan to the Shvatim. Meanwhile, the korbanos are offered in the Mishkan in Gilgal. Then, after 14 years, they establish the Mishkan in Shiloh, where it sits for 369 years. During the 14 years of Gilgal, people were allowed to bring their private korbanos on a private bama in their backyard. The daily olas atamid, the various korbanos that have to be offered on Shabbos or Yontif, all of that has to be done in the Mishkan. But if you want to bring a donative ola or a donative shalom, you can do it in your backyard bama. Then the Mishkan is established in Shiloh for 369 years. The bamas are prohibited. All the korbanos have to, if you want to bring an ola or a shlomim, you have to travel to Shiloh to bring it there. Then the Plishtim, we learned it in the beginning of Shoftim, or the beginning of Shmuel, when Eli Cohen is killed or dies, he falls backwards after the Plishtim take the Aron in captivity. And the Aron is sent back after 4 months. But the Mishkan, or the Mizbeach, is set up in the city of Nov, Ira Kohanim, where it's going to be for 13 years. We're going to see until now. The Mishkan is separated from the Aron. Let's think about it. The Aron is in Plishtim. Then they send it back, and then it comes to Beit Shemesh, where there's a plague, and eventually it goes to a town called Kiryat Ye'arim, where it is for 20 years. So, but right now we're in the year 13. Okay, there's another 7 years before something happens to the other. So Aron is in a different place. And now the Mishkan is in the city of Nov for 13 years until Shaul wipes it out. When they wipe out Novi Kohanim, the Mizbech is moved to the city of Givon, where it is for 44 years. So 13 plus 44 is 57. It's 57 years. If you add up 57 and 369 and 14, that's 440 years. And we travel in the desert for 40 years. Eventually, when they built the base of Mikdash in Shalim, it says 480 years after they left Mitzrayim. So we just did it. 40 in Mitzrayim, 14, 369, 13 plus 44 brings us to that 480 years. It's 7 years from now, right? We're in year 13. David HaMelech, after Shaul's death, is going to be the king in Yehuda only for 7 years. 7 years later, he's going to be made king of all of Klal Yisrael. And he brings the Aron in year 20 to Yerushalayim. And he dies after 33 years, because 33 plus 7 is 40 years of David's reign. And the Beis HaMikdash is built in the 4th year of Shlomo Melech's reign. So 53 plus 4 brings us to 57. It's important to track this because I have a shot that, if you notice, whenever the Aron is separated from the Mizbeach, the Bamas are allowed. So in the 14 years when they're in Gilgal, the Aron travels with Yoshua and the army. So the Aron and the Mizbeach are separate. And for whatever reason, that allows Bamas to take place. But then when the Aron HaKodesh and the Mizbeach are together in one place, like in the years that it was in Shiloh, the Bamas are prohibited. Now again, in these 57 years, the Aron and the Mishkan are in two separate places. 13 years in Nov, 44 years in Givon. The Aron remains in an ohel in a tent outside of Ir David, and the Mizbeach is in Givon until Shlomo HaMelech builds the Beis HaMikdash and reunites the Mizbeach with the Aron, and then the Bamas are prohibited forever. So this is the first time we are exposed to the city of Nov. Vayavad David Nov el Achimelech HaKohen. And Achimelech HaKohen is the Kohen Gadol in Nov. Vayecherad Achimelech likrat David. Achimelech is afraid. Vayomer lo madua talvadecha v'ish enitach. They know who David HaMelech is. He has a retinue. He has an entourage. He's a major warrior. Where are your armies? Now David says, "I came with shlichus HaMelech." So, but if he came with shlichus HaMelech, where are his servants? Where is his entourage? Then there's a debate. When did he come? Rashi says he came Erev Shabbos, because we're going to see that the lechem that is going to be given to him is lechem upon him. But Reb Shimon holds that they baked it on Shabbos, and they had a heter to bake it on Shabbos, and he came on Shabbos. So we'll see. We're going to go through that machlokas a little later on. Achimelech is the Kohen Gadol. He is Achia ben Achituv that was mentioned above. And therefore, Achimelech is afraid. David shows up by himself. What's going on here? Vayomer David l'Achimelech hakohen hamelech. Hakohen hamelech tzivani davar. David tells Achimelech that he's there as a shlichus from the Melech. Vayomer elai ish al yedam u'umat, and nobody should know about it. I'm a secret mission. Asher anochi sholachacha. Vasher tziviticha ve'tanarim yodati al makom ploni almoni. And my servants have been placed in a certain place. I don't want to mention it. It's secret. Ve'ata ma yesh tachat yadcha chamisha lechem tna biadi o animtza. And David HaMelech asks Achimelech for 5 loaves of bread. And of course, these answers should have been suspicious to Achimelech. Why wouldn't the king give him provisions for the road if he sent them on a shlichus? Or why couldn't his servants who are hiding somewhere provide lechem for him? But all these tainas Achimelech didn't think about because he had a lot of trust in David HaMelech. Later on, though, when Shaul shows up and interrogates Achimelech because he's going to suspect Achimelech of being in cahoots with David, these questions and the lack of suspicion is going to hurt Achimelech. Now, the Abarbanel comments why David HaMelech asked for 5 loaves. The Abarbanel says, Shol chamisha lechem keneged chamisha chumshei Torah. This mispar was the holiest number for David. That's why Sefer Tehillim is divided up into 5 different books. The other pshat why he asked for 5 is because the Kohen Gadol gets 5 portions of the lechem aponim. The lechem aponim is the showbread. There are 12 loaves that are placed on the shulchan on Shabbos, and they sit there for 7 days. The next Shabbos, and there's a switch of the Kohanim. Every 6th day, every week, a new family of Kohanim would come to the Beis HaMikdash to do their service. And the outgoing group would go out, and the incoming group would go out on the time when and the lechem aponim would be divided and be eaten up by those Kohanim. The Kohen Gadol himself gets 5 loaves. So he's asking for Achimelech his share. So Pasuk Hey, Vayana Kohen David, Vayomer ein lechem chol el tachat yadi. So first of all, he says, I don't have secular bread.
Yes.
Ki lechem kodesh. Yesh, im nishma narim ach isha. As long as he's referring to him, he says the na'arim, but he's referring to David, haven't had relations because having relations makes you tameh. So there are 2 types of bread that come along with korbanos. So a korban shlomim is a korban that is offered.
I don't have WhatsApp. You're here in California now? What is your phone number?
We lost.
Okay, so if you bring a korban shlomim, so a regular korban shlomim can be eaten for 2 days and 1 night. But there was a special korban shlomim called a korban toda. So if you were on a trip overseas and you came back, if you were in prison and you were released from prison, if you were sick and you were healed, or you came back from a caravan, you were mechuyev to bring a korban toda. Korban toda was a shlomim, but it came along with 40 loaves of bread. So, and the bread was niskadesh once you shechted the shlomim. Shlomim was eaten by regular Jews. You didn't have to be a Kohen to eat the shlomim. You could eat the bread as well, but you had to be tohor. Having relations makes you not tohor. You just have to go to the mikvah and have hair of shemesh, and then the night and then the night comes, and then you're tohor, and then you can eat truma and kodshim. Now, lechem aponim were eaten only by the kohanim, not by non-kohanim. So David HaMelech is in sakana nefashos. He hasn't eaten for 3 days. So you're allowed to eat whatever you want. However, there's a din. If you have to eat something prohibited, you should eat whatever is prohibited the less the lesser that you can. So even if you were tamei, you would eat lechem of lachmei toda. First of all, you would eat regular bread, unless you were such a person who ate all of his food b'tahara. There were Jews called chaverim versus an am haaretz. When the Gemara uses the word chaver versus am haaretz, a chaver is someone who ate all of his food b'tahara, even though he's not a Kohen. We have no din that we have to eat our food in a state of tahara. Kohanim cannot be metame themselves, but not regular Jews. However, there were Jews, since they would be invited to a feast where there might be a shlomim served, they practiced eating their food b'tahara. So if you ate your food b'tahara, now, of course, if it's a sakana nefashos, you could eat regular food. And then if you didn't have any other food, you could eat the lechem toda. And then worse comes to worse, you could also eat the lechem aponim if you needed to, because it's pikuach nefesh. However, tzrichim liten lecha kala kal. Lefichach liten lecha lechem aponim achta asur l'zorim b'isur lav. Lechem aponim, there's an isur, a negative prohibition for non-Kohanim to eat it. However, we also have truma, but a zar who eats truma is chayiv misa, not capital punishment, but misa bidei shamayim. So eating truma for a non-Kohen is a worse sin than eating the lechem aponim. So the Kohen Gadol Achimelech wanted to give him lechem aponim rather than give him truma.
So David basically lied to Achimelech. He made up a whole story to save himself because he didn't tell him the truth.
He's b'sakon nefashos. If he's allowed to eat as a non-Kohen lechem aponim, then he's certainly allowed to be meshak. That right? You're allowed to violate any law in the Torah for pikuach nefesh except three. I mean, except giloy araya shvichus dami avodah zarah. That's privately. Publicly, if somebody says, "Well, eat this piece of chazer, I'm going to kill you," if it's in public, so there, yahareg v'yavar, you're supposed to allow yourself to be killed as well. All of the various dinim where it says that you're allowed to violate any law except for the three cardinal ones are privately b'tzina, but in public, because it's a chilul Hashem, there you have to go even beyond. Which is why, for example, when the Greeks came and they wanted Matityahu to bow down. So well, again, there it depends whether it was Mamash Avodah Zarah or not. There he would have to be Arik Vayavor. Okay. Any questions, comments so far? No. Pasuk Vav. Vayan David es HaKohen Vayomer lo ki im isha atzra lanu kitmol shulsham b'tzeiti, that we have not been exposed, we have not had relations with women.
Who's the we? He was there by himself.
I know, but remember the word na'arim that he said, that Achimelech said to David, was just in a polite way. He was referring to David himself. He told that the na'arim are hiding in a private place, that he didn't want to reveal their location, but he wants to get food for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, we have not been intimate with women. Vayu Klei Anarim Kodesh, Lu Derech Chol, V'as Ki Hayom Yigdash Bakli. And all of the clothes that my Na'arim are wearing are Tohor, and it will remain Tohor. So there's no problem. By the way, the Kli Yakar brings Talmid Chacham Onoto Mishabbos LaShabbos. Talmidei Chachamim, somebody like David HaMelech, they'd have relations, from Shabbos to Shabbos. So therefore, they were prushim at this point. They were clearly not tamei relating to that. Zayin. Vayiten lo HaKohen Kodesh. So in fact, the Kohen didn't have secular bread. It was a city only of Kohanim. And he gave him lechem aponim. There was a special miracle made with the lechem aponim. Like I said, it was baked, and then kept for 7 days on the table before they eat it. And it stayed fresh, so much so, Chazal tell us that they used to bring out the shulchan to the people to see the steaming lechem upon him, that it was fresh even 7 days after it was baked, because it was one of the miracles in the Beis Hamikdash. Like Chazal bring the Kabim Mekomot that Nasa Nes Gadol B'Lechem Aponim Sheyadayim Cham Lachar Shavua Kishinilkach Me'al HaShulchan, that it was stayed fresh even for a week, like it says in Chagiga Chav Vav Amud Beis, Chagiga Chav Vav Amud Beis. Dam Rav Yeshua ben Levi Nes Gadol Nasa B'Lechem Aponim Kisiduro Kach Siluko. The freshness that the Lechem Aponim had when they put it on the table was the same as when they took it off. Shene'amar Lasum Lechem Cham B'Yom Yilakcho. And that's why Mishum Zayu Magbin Shulchan Alechem Umarimo Tola Ole Regalim. And they would show it to the people who came up on Sholosh Regalim. V'oimim Ru'uchi Batchem Lefnei Hamokum. Look at how Hashem loves you. Shenasa Nes Kazeh Alechem Nishar B'Chamimos. That's why the pasuk here also references the fact that it was Cham. Okay, we've gotten to pasuk Ches. I think this is a good place to stop, because now we're going to be introduced to Doeg HaAdomi, the real doppelganger to David HaMelech, that the person we'll see who was the main enemy, of course, along with Shaul, but Doeg was the one that really did a lot of the action against David. And what happens to Doeg after David's death, and Doeg HaAdomi is going to be an important character for the next, for Shmuel Aleph, Shmuel Beis, and even for Malachim. God willing, we should get there. Any comments, questions, or aros?
Mm.